Today we're tackling insomnia,
Yeah,
which I'm sure is something that a lot of you are interested in, whether you have trouble sleeping
right.
or you're just fascinated by the science of sleep.
Yeah,
We're going to try to dig through all of the latest research.
got a lot to cover.
We've got clinical trials.
Mm-hmm.
We even have some insights from traditional Chinese medicine.
Really interesting stuff.
So
Yeah.
let's just dive right in. What's
Yeah.
actually happening in our brains when we just can't seem to fall asleep?
Well, when we talk about insomnia,
Right.
it's not just feeling tired.
Right.
You know, it's actually rooted in some complex processes happening in the brain.
Okay.
And research is giving us a really detailed look at how this works.
Okay, so instead of just feeling tired, what's actually happening? What's going on up there?
Okay, so imagine your brain is this intricate ecosystem,
Okay.
right? And to fall asleep, everything needs to be in balance.
Right. So what's out of balance?
So there are these two key players in this whole sleep dance,
Okay.
and these are called neurotransmitters, and they're basically the brain's chemical messengers.
Okay.
And these two are called GABA and glutamate.
Okay.
And so think of GABA as the one who kind of dims the lights,
Okay.
turns down the music, getting your brain ready for rest.
Okay.
Glutamate, on the other hand, is like the life of the party, you know?
Okay, so GABA is like winding down for the night,
Yeah, exactly.
and glutamate's keeping the party going.
Yeah, keeping things energized and buzzing.
What happens in insomnia? Does one take over?
Yeah, so in people with insomnia, this balance is kind of thrown off,
Okay.
and there's actually less of that calming GABA.
Oh, interesting.
And the glutamate activity is like ramped up.
Huh.
It's like your brain is stuck at a party when it should be winding down for the night.
I can definitely relate to that. Like my brain is going a million miles an hour when I'm trying to sleep. Is there anything else going on? Is there something else that's contributing to this brain party?
Yeah. There's actually another recent discovery,
Okay.
and this involves something called the default mode network,
Okay.
or the DMN.
DNN.
And this is a network of brain regions that's usually active when our minds are wandering or
Yeah.
daydreaming
Yeah.
or reminiscing, stuff like that.
Okay.
But in people with insomnia, this DMN doesn't quiet down when they're trying to sleep.
So they're just laying in bed and thinking about everything that happened that day.
Exactly.
All the embarrassing things and everything they have to do tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's like their brain is stuck in this loop of replaying those embarrassing moments or planning tomorrow's to-do list.
Right.
And instead of drifting off to sleep, they're just...
Stuck with all those thoughts.
Yeah,
Is there any way to actually see this overactivity happening?
that's the crazy part.
Right.
Using fMRI scans, scientists can actually see this heightened activity
Wow.
in the DMN.
That's wild.
It's like we're getting a window into the brain
Wow.
showing insomnia in action.
So we can literally visualize insomnia at work in the brain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty amazing, right?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I also read that our genes could play a role in how well we sleep.
Right, yeah.
I mean, isn't that crazy?
That is wild, yeah. Scientists have been exploring how our genes, basically our body's blueprint,
Right.
can influence our sleep patterns.
Okay.
And you know how some people are naturally morning people and others are night owls?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out certain gene variations can actually make people more prone to sleeplessness.
Oh, wow.
And they're called biological clock genes,
Okay.
and they help regulate our natural sleep-wake cycles.
So our genes are literally like our internal clocks.
It's a good way to put it.
What happens when those clocks are off?
Well, think of it like a clock that runs a little fast or slow.
Okay.
It can throw off your entire sleep rhythm. And there are two genes in particular, PER3 and CLACK, that have specific variations that are linked to a higher risk of insomnia.
So some people are literally predisposed to insomnia.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're doomed to bad sleep,
Right.
but it does mean your body might need a little extra help in finding its rhythm.
So it's not just about, stress or bad habits. Some
Yeah.
people are
Right.
like literally predisposed because of their genes.
Yeah, and it adds another layer of complexity
Right.
to understanding insomnia. It's a reminder that it's not just about willpower.
Right.
There's a lot happening under the surface that can impact our sleep.
This is fascinating. So we have this overactive brain network, imbalanced brain chemicals,
Yeah,
and even our genes are having an influence.
right.
I mean, this is a lot to take in.
It is, yeah.
So before we get too overwhelmed, let's move on to something a little bit more hopeful,
Okay.
which is the non-drug breakthroughs
Okay.
for better sleep.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of new research coming out that is not just about traditional sleeping pills.
Exactly. And there's a lot of exciting research happening right now that goes beyond those traditional sleeping pills.
Okay, great.
And one of the most promising approaches is something called sleep restriction therapy, or SRT.
SRT.
Yeah.
Now, I remember reading about that, but isn't the name a little bit counterintuitive?
It is kind of right.
If you're not sleeping enough, why would you restrict your sleep?
That's what makes it so interesting.
Okay.
Because SRT works by strategically limiting your time in bed to actually increase your sleep efficiency.
Okay.
You see, if you're spending hours tossing and turning,
Yeah.
your brain starts to associate your bed with stress and wakefulness,
Okay.
not sleep.
So it's like reverse psychology for your brain.
Exactly.
Right.
By consolidating your sleep into a shorter, more focused window,
Okay.
you can actually retrain your brain to associate your bed with sleep,
Oh, wow.
and you fall asleep more easily.
So tell me about the results.
The results are pretty impressive. A recent study in The Lancet,
Okay.
which is a top-tier medical journal,
Okay.
showed that after just a few weeks of SRT,
All right.
participants saw a significant reduction in insomnia severity, with many even achieving clinical remission.
So they basically cured their insomnia by sleeping less.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And how does that compare to other more traditional methods?
The results were significantly better than the control group,
Okay.
which had much lower remission rates.
Okay.
It really highlights the power of retraining your brain
Wow.
to prioritize sleep.
So that's SRT.
Yeah.
Are there any other non-drug approaches that are showing promise?
Well, this one might surprise you.
Okay.
Strength training.
Wait, so you're telling me that pumping iron can help me sleep?
It does seem counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But research is starting to show a strong link between building muscle and better sleep.
Oh, wow.
And a study published in PLOS1 found that engaging in strength training just twice a week
Okay.
led to a significant improvement in sleep quality.
Wow. Okay, so how does that translate? How does lifting weights translate into better sleep?
So it comes down to a couple of fascinating mechanisms.
Okay.
First, strength training actually helps regulate our hormonal balance,
Okay.
specifically by impacting the body's stress response system,
Right.
known as the HPA axis.
Okay, the HPA axis. Now, that's the one that controls our stress hormone, cortisol, right?
She got it.
Okay.
And high levels of cortisol are known to interfere with sleep.
Right.
And when you lift weights, your muscles release a protein called IL-15,
Okay.
which actually helps reduce cortisol levels.
So it has this like built-in stress-reducing effect.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so by managing that stress through exercise, we're actually creating a more sleep-conducive environment for ourselves.
Interesting. What's even more interesting is that some research suggests that strength training might be even more beneficial for sleep duration than aerobic exercise.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I always thought like running and cardio was the key
Yeah, a lot of people think that
to good sleep.
while cardio definitely has its benefits,
Right.
strength training seems to have a unique impact
Right.
on our hormonal balance and stress response.
So it's really giving a signal to your body to rest and recover.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Wow. This is all really interesting stuff, so much to process. When we come back, we're going to delve into insomnia and mental health, and you won't want to miss it.
Definitely not.
Welcome back, deep divers.
Yeah.
So before the break, we were talking about all this groundbreaking research on sleep. And, when my anxiety is high, sleep is usually the first thing to go.
Yeah,
Like my brain just can't switch off,
I hear you.
no matter how tired I am.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty common experience.
Yeah.
And the connection between sleep and mental health is a really hot topic in research right now.
Okay.
And what scientists are finding is that it's not just a matter of, feeling stressed.
Okay.
There's a strong two-way connection between insomnia and conditions like anxiety and depression.
So it's not just that stress can cause poor sleep,
Right.
but poor sleep can actually make mental health conditions worse.
Exactly.
Wow.
One study actually found that people with insomnia were significantly more likely to develop depression later on.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Insomnia increases the risk of depression, and depression leads to further sleep disturbances.
Right. So it's like a downward spiral.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's actually happening in the brain to cause that link?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
fMRI studies are showing that people with both insomnia and depression have altered brain connectivity,
Okay.
especially in areas of the brain that control emotional regulation,
Oh, interesting.
like the amygdala and prefrontal cortex.
So it's not just like, you're feeling down or anxious.
Right.
There are actual changes in how the brain is wired.
Yeah. It's not just about, feelings. There are actual physical changes happening in the brain.
Wow, that's intense.
It is, and these changes in brain connectivity can make it harder to process emotions, to regulate your mood,
Okay.
and of course to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Wow. It's just amazing how much we can actually see,
Right.
what's happening inside the brain.
Yeah.
So it really takes it out of that mind over matter thing.
Exactly.
There's actually stuff going on.
Yeah, and this understanding is actually leading to some new and exciting treatment options
Okay.
that address both insomnia and mental health together.
That's great.
And one that's caught my eye is the use of 40 hertz flickering light stimulation.
Okay, now that sounds a little futuristic to me.
It does, right.
Flickering light.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It might surprise you
Okay.
at how simple yet effective it is.
Okay.
This technology basically involves exposing people to a specific frequency of flickering light,
Okay.
40 hertz to be exact.
Okay.
And this flickering actually stimulates the visual cortex,
Okay.
the part of the brain that processes what we see.
So you're like sending signals to the brain
Yeah,
through light.
basically, yeah.
Wow.
But here's the key.
Okay.
This specific frequency of light increases the production of adenosine in the brain.
Now remind me what adenosine is.
Right.
Or we talked about GABA.
Yeah, GABA's the one that slows things down.
Right. That's the calming one.
Exactly.
Okay.
But adenosine is actually the one that helps you drift off.
Okay.
It builds up in your brain throughout the day,
Okay.
promoting drowsiness and making you feel sleepy at night.
So this flickering light is like a shortcut to boosting those sleepy chemicals.
Yeah, exactly. It's like giving your brain a little nudge
Wow.
towards sleep.
And what have the studies shown?
They've shown that it can lead to some significant improvement in sleep quality,
Okay.
particularly in increasing deep restorative sleep.
So you're not just falling asleep faster,
Right.
but you're actually getting better quality sleep.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Are there studies that show like how effective this is?
There are some really promising results,
Okay.
especially in children with insomnia.
Okay.
One study showed that kids who received this light therapy fell asleep almost twice as fast as the control group.
Wow, that's huge.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, all from just some light stimulation.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That could be a game changer for people
Yeah,
struggling with insomnia and mental health.
definitely something to keep an eye on. And, since we're talking about different approaches to sleep,
Yeah.
I thought it would be interesting to shift gears a little
Okay.
and talk about how traditional Chinese medicine tackles insomnia.
Okay. I love TCM.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated by it.
it's been around for centuries.
Yeah.
And it has a long history of treating insomnia.
Okay.
And modern research is actually starting to shed light on how some of these ancient practices actually work.
That's really cool.
And one study I came across focused on a combination of a herbal remedy called Swanzoran decoction
Okay.
and ear acupressure.
Acupressure.
Yeah,
So that's like applying pressure to certain points on your body.
exactly. It's based on the same principles as acupuncture,
Okay.
but instead of needles, it uses gentle pressure.
How does that tie into sleep?
Well, this particular study found that combining the herbal decoction with ear acupressure
Okay.
significantly improved sleep efficiency in participants.
Oh, wow.
So, pretty promising results.
Does it know why this works?
Well, they're still kind of unraveling all the mechanisms,
Okay.
but early research suggests that both the herbal remedy and the acupressure may work by influencing GABA activity in the brain.
Oh, okay.
Remember GABA? That's our calming neurotransmitter we talked about earlier.
So they're both boosting GABA.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Okay.
And helping the brain relax and prepare for sleep.
So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there's more.
Okay.
Acupuncture itself
Okay.
has also shown promising results for insomnia.
Oh, wow.
And studies show that targeting specific acupuncture points, like the one on the top of the head called Baihu,
Okay.
can actually increase blood flow to the prefrontal cortex,
Okay.
which is a key area for regulating those sleep and wake cycles.
So by getting the blood flowing
Yeah.
to that part of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of smoothing out that transition.
Exactly. It's like improving the communication between different parts of the brain that are
Wow.
involved in sleep.
This is incredible. So we went from like the intricacies of brain networks
Yeah.
to like a specific frequency of light
Right.
to ancient healing practices.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
This is really fascinating.
It is.
So,
yeah.
but we're not done yet.
Not quite.
When we come back, we're going to be exploring the long-term consequences of chronic sleeplessness.
Yeah. That's important.
And trust me,
Yeah.
you do not want to hit the snooze button on this one.
Definitely not.
Welcome back, deep divers. So we've explored the science behind sleeplessness.
Yeah.
We've talked about some cutting-edge treatments, even touched on some ancient wisdom.
Right.
But now it's time to talk about what happens when sleeplessness becomes chronic.
Right.
I'm a little nervous to hear this part, to be honest.
It is something to take seriously.
Yeah.
You know, we hear about how important sleep is all the time,
Right.
but it's easy to dismiss it
Right.
if you're just feeling a little tired.
Right, exactly.
But chronic insomnia,
Yeah.
and by that we mean trouble sleeping at least 3 nights a week for 3 months or longer,
Okay.
can actually have this ripple effect on your entire health.
Okay, so that's a pretty significant amount of time
It is.
to have insomnia.
Yeah.
One of the studies that we looked at mentioned a link between chronic sleeplessness and fatty liver disease.
Right.
I never would have connected those two things.
Yeah. It's a connection that's getting more attention these days.
Okay.
And you see, when you're chronically sleep deprived,
Yeah.
it's like your body's constantly under stress.
Okay.
And this throws off the delicate balance of hormones and metabolism. And that, over time, can increase the likelihood of developing fatty liver disease.
No. So, like, sleep deprivation is a stress on your liver.
It is, yeah.
Wow. So how does that actually work? How does that happen?
Well, it all starts in the brain,
Okay.
specifically in the hypothalamus.
Right, so-
Remember, that's the control center that regulates everything from sleep to our stress response.
Right. That tiny but mighty hypothalamus.
Exactly.
What happens there?
So when you're chronically sleep deprived,
Yeah.
it leads to overactivation of a hormone called CRH,
Okay.
corticotropin-releasing hormone.
Okay. So big word.
It is a mouthful, yeah.
But basically, this hormone's going into overdrive
That is.
because of the lack of sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And the problem is when CRH is overactive,
Yeah.
it suppresses the function of something called liver X receptors, or LXRs.
LXRs.
Yeah.
So what are those?
These receptors are super important for regulating how your liver processes fats.
Okay. So now we're seeing that connection to liver. So if these receptors aren't working properly because of this overactive hormone,
Mm-hmm.
the liver can't process fats as efficiently.
Yeah, it's like a chain reaction.
Okay.
Chronic insomnia disrupts the brain signaling,
Okay.
which then throws off the liver's ability to do its job.
Wow. So you don't sleep well
Yeah,
and your liver is at risk.
it's wild, right?
Yeah. That's a little scary.
It is a reminder
Yeah.
that we can't ignore those long-term impacts
Right.
of poor sleep.
Speaking of serious consequences,
Yeah.
there's another connection that's pretty concerning,
Mm-hmm.
which is the link between insomnia and Alzheimer's disease.
Right, yeah.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
I mean, I've heard about it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
never really understood it.
Yeah.
What's the latest research showing?
Well, studies have found that people with poor sleep efficiency,
Okay.
meaning they spend less time in bed actually asleep,
Okay.
they tend to accumulate this protein called amyloid beta 42 or A42
Okay.
in their brains at a much faster rate.
And that's one of the hallmarks
Is
of
it-
Alzheimer's, right?
Yeah, it's the one that forms those plaques in the brain.
And those plaques are what disrupts
It's
the
that's
communication
the-
between the brain cells.
Right.
So does this mean that insomnia causes Alzheimer's? Should I be panicking right now?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
It's really important to remember that correlation doesn't equal causation.
Okay.
Just because two things are linked
Yeah.
doesn't mean one directly causes the other.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Hopefully.
But it's still concerning, right?
It is, yeah,
This connection.
definitely.
Yeah.
And while more research is definitely needed,
Right.
the findings do suggest that chronic sleeplessness may contribute to the development of Alzheimer's
Right.
or speed up its progression.
Okay.
So it's definitely a red flag
yeah.
that we can't ignore.
This has been quite a deep dive
It has.
from the science of sleep
Yeah.
to these amazing treatments
Mm.
and the long-term health risks.
Right.
I think I need a nap after this.
I hear you.
Just thinking about it all.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
And I hope it's empowered our listeners to
Yeah.
take their sleep health seriously.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up,
Yeah.
is there one key takeaway
Mm-hmm.
or like thought-provoking question
Yeah.
that you want to leave our listeners with today?
Well, I think considering everything we've talked about,
Yeah.
it's really crucial to think about this.
Okay.
If insomnia is this multifaceted issue
Mm-hmm.
with roots in our biology, our mental state, and even our environment,
Yeah.
shouldn't we be looking for solutions
Yeah.
that are just as multifaceted?
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing.
Right.
And so we have to look at all these different aspects.
And find solutions that address all of them.
Well, deep divers, I don't know about you,
Yep.
but I am definitely feeling inspired to get some good quality sleep after all of this.
Me too.
So thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey
Yeah,
into the world of insomnia.
it's been great.
Until next time, sleep well.
Sleep well.